Hi, this is Damon Pistolka, host of the Faces of Business podcast, where we talk to interesting people about life and business. We cover their backgrounds, obstacles they've encountered, and find out what drives them. Along the way, our guests share nuggets you can use to drive your success. Reach me directly, DAMON at exityourway.us, or check out our website, exityourway.us, for more information. I hope you enjoy our show. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka, and with me today, I've got Bernie Fussenegger, man. It is so awesome. The man with the hand that no one can miss. So, Bernie, great to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Damon. Very much appreciate you having me on as a guest today, and happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to everyone. Oh, yes, it is. It's Taco Tuesday. I gotta remember that. That's dinner tonight.
Yes.
Taco Tuesday. Well, Bernie, I've been wanting to have you on for a while because your background and experience is so cool, and your story and everything. So I'm just going to let us go right into it. So tell us a little bit about your background and, kind of how you ended up where you're at today.
Yeah, good question. So when I came out of college, I went to a little agency, and it was really during this agency, probably there for about 3.5 years, is when the internet came about. And it's one of those, it's like, wow, what do you do with this thing? And really at that time it was very basic websites, email, and literally that was it. So I left there and went to a technology really startup, if you will. It's called the Cobb Group, based here out of Louisville. And really what they did were a lot of self-help guides like Microsoft Word, Lotus, and some of these others that just came around. And really what we did at that point, we would create a landing page, we would create a banner, and that was kind of my first foray into this digital world. And how do you go from print to this digital? Then from there, I went to Humana for about 3 years. And this is really where I made the transformation of, okay, enough of this print. I want to get strictly over into the digital, and really taught myself how to do web design, web development, and pretty much all front end design, taking a lot of my background, which was graphic and advertising design, and using that over in the digital world. And one of the reasons why I made that switch was, in print, you do something, it takes 6 weeks to have it printed.
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh, you made a mistake, and it's like, oh my gosh, you get in trouble for that, or you get reprimanded, whatever. But proofreader didn't catch it, and then you got to do a reprint or something. With the digital, way back then, you had that ability to make changes on the fly.
Yeah.
You could create a landing page, put it out there. If it wasn't working, pull it down, put something else. You could easily, A/B test if you wanted. But it was just the immediacy. It was the ability to quickly engage with a consumer and help them within that buying purchase, or more informational really back then. So right around 2000, or the year 2000, I went to work for Papa John's. And essentially, when I went to Papa John's, it was more web design development as I've started off. And, way back then, we were at 2% online sales, which, when I left 3-4 months ago, we were at 66-67%. So that kind of gives you an idea. And one of the funniest stories, I guess, from back then, John Schnatter, the founder, and back then he was the president, CEO, everything else. He was ready to pull the plug. He thought, online ordering is going to be a fad. We're investing all this money and not seeing the returns that we want right away. So, there was a possibility back in 2000, he was ready to pull that sucker out.
Yeah.
And, over the years, some of the things, we were the first with nationwide plan ahead ordering, which is pretty cool. So these are all things that happen because we decided to keep on moving forward with it. First with online ordering, first with plan ahead ordering, first pizza chain with text ordering, first with 1 billion in national mobile online web ordering, the first with the digital rewards program, first with optimized e-commerce gift card. And those are just some of the things that we really did along the way. Another one is we were the first with a localization tool that gave our franchisees the ability to basically send out their own email and SMS. This is something that we developed with a third-party vendor. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of first within this category. And when you look at pizza in general, you think, how much really could be into pizza? And in reality, you look at the technology
Oh
that
yeah.
powers a lot of this. You look at the data that you're collecting on your consumers as far
Yeah.
as, what they've ordered, what their order history is, what their frequency is. Are they a rewards customer? Or are they not a rewards customer? So, there's a lot of that, along the way. And as, I went from the web design part of it, and really, as I gained more experience on the digital side, it was going from not only the web, but then assumed the email program, assumed our SMS program, went from, a manager, senior manager to a director level, to where ultimately at that point, I had teams underneath me. We were responsible for the CRM, which email, SMS, push, mobile marketing. I had a
Wow.
team that was responsible for all 3,200 stores as far as their deals, promo codes. We worked with our franchisees on a daily basis. And I guess some of the things, that happened during that time, I was part of 5 different website redesigns. So you think, all the experiences and as customer experiences or expectations have changed, we had 5 different web designs over that period that, addressed new features, new functionality. My teams launched the first HTML email. The Papa John's and our teams, we created our first, loyalty program that was built from the ground up. And this was back probably around 2007-ish. And we launched our SMS programs, launched mobile push. I've been there long enough to where I was personally involved in launching the Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels, which is kind of fun, thinking how far back that was.
Yeah.
Back into, this goes back pretty far. Then, we had a partnership with Exact Target. They were email based out of Indy and ultimately purchased by Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So, it was through them that we started doing a lot of data-driven marketing through our email and SMS programs, just based on real-time customer data that we had, to have that drip campaign, to have that welcome campaign, to have more dynamic content within our emails. And, that's the part that, really excites me on a day-to-day basis, is how do you use data to really connect with your audiences, to reach, retain, and regain. That's something I love to talk about, because really that's where I start formulating that thoughts of, okay, if you're going to reach a new customer, what are all the channels that you have to reach that individual? And it's, it's your website, it's your in-store team member, it's the store itself, it's, the top of the funnel, which may be your search and display, all the way down through the bottom of the funnel, which is your email programs. But what is that message to get that second order? And then ultimately, how do you retain that customer? And that comes with a lot of the triggered, the welcome series, understanding who the customers are, and really based off of their behaviors, triggering messaging and communicating to them so that you don't have to regain them. And regain is basically when they're leaving your brand, how do you bring those individuals back in? But, that's kind of the foundation that's omni-channel. It looks at, it fits very nicely with the customer journey, and definitely all data driven. So if you've got the data, you have that ability now to truly engage with your consumer, bringing them back into the brand and communicating with them, as well. So that, that's kind of the Papa John's, 20 years, you think, you walk into the building and it's like, pizza can't be that bad. It can't be that difficult. But then, you go through some of the training, you work in the stores, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is a lot more complicated than I thought. They've got charts for everything on how to make a pizza so that it's the same here in Louisville as it is out in Seattle or, down in Miami. It doesn't matter. It's got the same portioning, the same dough, the same everything. And it's just, when you look at the process along the way, it is actually pretty cool that, you're making pizza, but it's powered by a lot of technology.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And when you look at, as you said, some of the things that you talked about, I've got to imagine that when you started, and I'm just sitting here trying to comprehend. First of all, I was writing some notes to ask you some questions about it. When you started in 2000, when really the internet was at its infancy, really.
Right.
I mean, we didn't know what was going on, because I forget when Google actually started, but it wasn't a heck of a lot before that, or right after that. It was like 97 or something like that.
I mean, think back, like Ask Jeeves and some of these other search engines. Internet Explorer was actually pretty popular, and some of the some of the other search engines that were back there, and they don't even exist anymore.
Yeah, when Yahoo was actually a search
Yes.
engine.
You had AOL of all things.
Yeah. So, but you think about that now, and you look at, and I was just trying to, you have really been there from infancy to really pretty advanced usage, because when we talk about what a company like Papa John's and what you're leading people to do is really data analysis, data forensic, and then using that data to predict how to be the best, how to drop the right messaging at the right place at the right time to engage that customer.
And it's also, how do you use it for personalization? How do you use it for one-on-one communication? And when I say personalization, this is, various reasons. On the website, when you come in, you've got something that's tailored for you. If you call into the store, the in-store team member understands, okay, I know who this customer is. I see what their order history. So, that personalization to where you're building better relationships with your audiences, with your customers, to really give them a better experience when they engage with the brand. So, that part's extremely important.
And you don't, and as you're saying these things, right, I'm thinking about that. What did you say? When you call into a store, they know your order history. It's based on your phone number. So of course it follows you around, but that's really helpful when they're talking to you, because they could almost say, hey, did you like the order last time? Because you could get one just like that now.
And the great thing about, restaurant, at least the pizza industry, at least us back then, a lot of times people would create a loyalty program to gain customer information, to get their, their phone number, where they live and all that. When you order a pizza, and this goes back, 2000, 2007-ish, even all those times, okay, you call in, what's your name? Bernie Fussenegger. What's your address? You give your address. And back then you didn't have caller ID. What's your phone number? So you're giving all your information just to get that pizza delivered. And then, taking it from the offline to the online, where now you've got to create an account, and then you've got to, got the loyalty program, but just all that data that the consumer is willingly giving you to then be able to market back to them. And I'm not going to say it was always been easy either. You get, some leaders that very much, believed in the batch and blast. We're going to do the one message for everybody, because traditionally, that's how it always worked. You run a TV commercial, it's the national limited time offer that's out there. We're going to hit them with that. We're going to, that's going to be on social. That's going to be everywhere else. But, it's how do you teach leadership or show leadership the importance of data-driven marketing, and going through that, exercise of, here's the type of ROI, here's the type of testing, showing quick wins, quick results, to then get them on board of, okay, it doesn't really have to be, that batch and blast one message for everyone. Now we've got the ability to be a little bit more targeted, a little bit more segmented, looking at a consumer, the frequency of a consumer, has that changed? And when that changes, are we, one, know who that customer is, but then are we communicating them to get them to come back? Or, we need to know who's leaving, so that then we can be more aware of when it happens, but also using data to, build lookalike audiences. So here's our, segment of a good customer base that we have. We want a ton more of these individuals because their ticket average is higher. They've got a higher lifetime value. Now let's use a lookalike on search and display and even social, and bring more individuals like those in as well. So, it's very much from a batch and blast way years ago to being much smarter and much more effective and efficient with who you're targeting, but also within your spend.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, I think, is that when people are listening to you talk, they didn't realize that this all has to be done within a certain spending parameters too, because it's not unlimited profits. You really have to watch where you spend every penny, because it's competitive. You're not the only player in the game, and if someone spends better and gets better results than you, it's detrimental. Absolutely.
And a lot of this, yes, we're talking about pizza, but this applies to so many other categories. Definitely, other restaurants. You look at, my gosh, hardware stores, they have loyalty programs. Any service industry, whether it's a coffee shop, some of these big wine and beer, liquor store, whatever you want to call them, big box retailers, retail. If you got that ability to capture customer data at that point, you've got the ability to be data driven with your marketing, be more effective and more efficient with your spends. So it becomes very important of, why the reason why you gather this and the programs that you have behind it.
Well, yeah, and you look at the grocery industry and how they've
That's
done
another
it because,
one. That's another
because
one.
you look at a grocery store, they've got limited space, they've got limited shelf life,
Yes,
and they've got fierce margin competition. So
yes.
it's like, the loyalty programs, I honestly don't understand how they don't really have it, because there's still some brands that don't, and I don't know how they operate like that.
I don't either.
Because it's you get so much about who Damon is and what Damon buys,
Right.
when Damon buys it, and everything else they can get about me outside of the what I buy in the store that helps them to what are new products that we might want to try. And I think about from just the operation of running a place like that information allows you to say, why do you have that item on the shelf? Because nobody, there's nobody in your demographic here that's bought it.
And that's, exactly. So you're hitting on something that's, I think, another aspect of the data is, we're talking about customers, but what about inventory?
Yeah.
What about, things on the shelf or, products or toppings or whatever? If nobody's purchasing it, why do you have that much space dedicated for that one individual? And that's, the other part is, looking at net promoter scores of consumers and getting their feedback of, what's working, what's not, but, what's their experience within the store and what is it they're purchasing and what are their expectations? So, it's more than just, I guess, the data, but there's so much data that you can potentially be using across the spectrum.
Yeah. It's really interesting. So when just for a point of reference, like how many text messages would a place like Papa John's send on a daily basis?
That is a great question, which I do know. So when I started and I took over the email programs, we were at probably the database size was roughly 75,000 to 100,000. Over my time, we grew it to 14 million.
Yeah.
And there was some, and I'm going to go with email first. And, with email, we would send, I think there was a couple of years where we sent close to 2 billion emails a year.
Oh, gee.
Just imagine that. So we became very reliant on email. We knew that when you sent it out, you were going to get X number of sales and X number of transactions. And then, with SMS, it was roughly, we would probably send about 7 or 8 million a week. So, multiply that over, 52 weeks. But then, there's a lot of rules and regulations. So, I mean, with SMS, we grew it to 4 million. The TCPA came around and, the legal team's like, I think we need to nix this whole list and start from new. And, this was probably 7 years ago. So going back to zero and building it back up to 4 million to be totally compliant. Making sure we had the right people in there and making sure people opted in the correct way.
Yep.
And then along came, the mobile apps and push notifications. And push notifications right now are kind of like the wild, wild west. They're out there. There's not a whole lot of regulation other than you opted in. But, look at, and what I love about push notifications is the way that they're using data. Look at your Fitbit app or, any of the health type fitness apps that you have and the way that they engage with you. A lot of these game apps, look at the way that they entice you to come back in, the offers, the specials, the messaging, the way that you've competed against somebody, the way that they really use that to keep their to keep them on your phone. I mean, that's the big thing. This thing right here with the space that you have and the amount of apps, for you to have a position and placement on someone's phone is very special. And it's something that you don't want to abuse, but how do you truly take advantage of that?
Yeah. Because you're right. If you can get the notifications coming up on their phone from time to time, you're top of mind.
Absolutely.
And then with the, like you said, the text ordering, the app-based ordering, it's even easier because it comes up. They can convert right there if they feel like it.
And when you look at email and SMS specifically, yes, they're, more towards the middle of the funnel towards the bottom. But once you got that individual into your program, just some of the basic things that you could do, a welcome series email, and not just one, but how do you space this out over the course of a month where you're continually in front of that consumer, every 5 days with a different message about your brand. And, that becomes powerful. You've got opportunities for, their birthday, anniversary, but then once they start purchasing, then you open it up towards so much more that's dynamic based on their behaviors, based on if we're going to launch a specific product or whatever it may be next month, let's pull out and give, this big segment a special preview of what you're doing because they ordered something in the past that's very relevant. But you can then become very personalized. And the same thing with SMS, maybe not with the same frequency, but then, how do you use SMS more as a utility, if you will, and, forgot passwords or order confirmation on the way, things like that, to where, they requested it, they being the consumer, and you're giving them, their expectations with it, while also giving more of a brand messaging. But you don't really want to send, 6 text messages in a week. It just, that's a very personal device that you're encroaching upon at that point.
Yeah. Wow. When you think about the possibilities that you were considering, like you said, if I'm a customer with years of history, and to be able to say you're coming out with a new product, and it's similar, like you said, to another product, there's just so many things to talk to people about. It's your, last year you bought a pizza on your birthday, you're going to get one this year. We come out with this new one that, might like even better. There's just so much you could do based having that knowledge.
It is. And, even outside of pizza, I mean, your ability to start creating excitement and awareness before a promotion starts, and even having these people that then could be potentially your ambassador and talk for you and promote your brand and share your message out to their friends. I mean, that's pretty powerful. And when you start treating them like a person and not a number, or, this is our customer over here, but, this is Dustin over here. This is, Alice over here. And this is, we've heard from them. We talked to them. We've got them part of focus groups. We got, them part of, the smaller segments to where we're talking more frequent to understand what we're doing right, what we're not doing, so that then they become even more loyal because they feel like they're part of that brand and really become part of an ambassador for your brand. With, once you get to that point, that becomes even more powerful.
Yeah, it's like Andrew Deutsch talks about. He says, build voracious advocates for your brand.
Absolutely.
And then engage them.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you're doing that, I mean, it could work you could have a sports team, you could be race cars, you could be, groceries. It really doesn't matter if you have the data to be able to really think about why someone may care about, and it really, you're putting yourselves in the shoes of the customer and going, why would Damon like to get an email from us today? Not how can I sell Damon something, but why would he like to get an email from us today? And I think that's, I think about that because myself over the last few years, I've really come around and started to understand how to actually sell the way that you should sell, and by giving people what they really want and just showing them that it's there. And it's, when you think of it in those ways and you have the data behind it, it's so powerful.
It is. And, we're talking about media and communicating, but, going almost old school. And this is something that I talk with, some of the clients that I work with is, a customer outreach program. Identify your best 20 to 40 consumers and call them up on the phone, pick up the phone and call them up. Yeah. And, at that point you're becoming more personal with them, but, ask them, what is the experience like? What are your expectations? Why do you buy from us? And, start that two-way dialogue to where, they're going to start feeling more than just a consumer, that they're giving you advice and you're asking for it, but, it's physically talking to the consumers as well. And it's not relying on a survey that goes out or an email or something else, but, you got to have that vocalization and talk to someone as well to really build even stronger brand loyalty.
That's a great point, because if you did that if you were a restaurant and you did that with your your repeat customers, the people that you figure out your big spenders, you figure out the top of 2 or 3 different kinds of people that you identify in there, and you talk to 10 a week. That's 500 calls over a year.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a lot of times to talking to people, and they're going to help you. They're going to help
Exactly.
you with your improvements. They're going to help you with creating a better menu. They're going to help you with layout of the facility, whatever it is. They're going to help you with all these different things that, like you said, if someone calls me and says, Damon, you're a good customer of ours, and I've seen you around, I just want to see, what do you think about this?
And on the flip side, you can look at some of your customers that may have a bad experience and talk to them. And, through that process, you may bring them back into the brand, but you're also going to understand what's not working, why they left, or, the problems that they had, so you can make those improvements. So, it's not just your best, but look at some of the ones that may not be performing the way that you want, and their expectations might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So it's learning from both ends that, I think is very important.
That's true. The bad experiences can teach you what you need to do even better.
Yes.
Even better. That's for sure. Wow. I mean, it still, we've talked a few times outside of this and stuff, and I still am boggled when I think about the amount of data. So, I mean, did you have data scientists that, basically they were just analyzing stuff for you?
That really didn't come until later. And,
really?
That was probably within the last 6, 7, 8 years, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I've talked to people other just with product sales, and once you get up, like over 100 million or so, it seems like you really just need to get analysts.
Yeah.
And you start to do that. So the size of your business, I would say you'd have to have a lot of them.
Start looking at trends, what's working, what's not.
Yeah.
Once you start getting into segmentation, who are the segments we need to go after? Why do we need to go after them? What's their lifetime value? What's their ticket average? What's their propensity to order X, Y, and Z? I mean, there's so many different variables that you could really dig into. And you look at just, with pizza alone, that's one thing. But look at like a retail, box store that's got millions of SKUs, and the amount of data that they're pulling in would be just, one, fascinating. But to be able to dig through that, you would need an army of data scientists that are, rummaging through all that, trying to pull out all the right things that you need to focus on.
Yeah. And just organizing the analysts to be able to work on the right things, because you can go down a rabbit hole pretty easily for months and months. Yeah.
Well, and I think, with that, it's, what are the KPIs that you're setting up prior to a campaign, and what are your goals? What are your expectations, the KPIs, and what are your measurements, and how are you measuring along the way, can help keep some of that, I think, contained as far as the rabbit holes. Because you're right, you could go so deep and totally get off focus when that happens.
Yeah. So let's summarize up your Papa John's by a couple things. So what was the thing that was the most fun that you did while you were there?
The most fun, I guess it would be my baby that we built, and it was this local email tool that allowed our franchisees the ability to send email and SMS. It's something that, we started way off in 2007. And as far as I know, they're still using it, and, a
nice
lifetime lifespan for something like that. But, was understanding the problems that we had back then of, we've got one message and how do we get more offers? And this was, gave us the ability. But, you think about a franchise organization like that.
Yeah.
And you look at any individual market, they know when a Domino's has opened up. They know what their competitors are doing in their market. So they needed that ability to be able to act fast, be able to act quickly, to then really compete with their competition on a day-to-day basis. And these tools allowed us to do that. And, that was one of those that, being part of the inception, being part of the discovery, working with the development teams, the technical teams, adding segmentation, adding new tools along the way, it was something that was always evolving and always did evolve with the features and functionality. And it's one of those that, we worked with Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and that was really something that helped them with their business as far as their distributing sending tool that they built that went to all their partners.
Wow. Very cool.
So it was kind of fun. And that was the one that's like, I sit back and it's like, okay, this is the one big thing. I mean, there's a multitude of others that,
Yeah.
there's not
Yeah.
one person that is, there were so many people involved in this,
Yeah.
architects, developers, and, it's the process and how does a team come together to truly build something that's beneficial for the brand is, really the coolest part. And when you look at online ordering going from 2% to 60 to
Yeah.
70%, you think of all the people that were involved in that process over the course of 20 years. And it's amazing the number of talented people I was able and fortunate enough to work with along the way. And
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And, with us, we built a lot of this ourselves, and we had developers that built this ourselves. And it's pretty cool to say I was part of that.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Cause it's so cool to get to talk to you about this. Cause like I said before, many times when we talked, it's just fascinating to me because of the breadth of experience you had there. And then the growth. I mean, cause when you started, and I'm going to wrap this up cause we talked a long time on this, but how big was the company when you started?
I would say under 1,000 stores.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah. So,
when I left, we were over 5,000.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's crazy cool, man. And I'm excited to see how you're going to be helping people in the future, because I know what you're doing and what you learned is really, it's going to be able to help a lot of other business people do what they want to do. So what are you excited for now? What, I mean, cause now you've been kind of out, you get just like, okay, I understand you've been hanging out a while. You're looking at some different opportunities, but what really excites you now in the field of your 3 R's and for people being able to, do good things in their business?
Yeah. So the one thing I'm really excited for is, for the last 20 years, I've always done consulting on the side. I've always had, my side business brands where I did websites and whatnot. But really the last 3 to 4 years, I started building up my personal brand, which has really evolved into my business brand, B2The7. And my focus there is how do I take a lot of these past experiences at Papa John's with data-driven marketing, with omni-channel, to really focus in on how do I help restaurants, retail, any service brands with their marketing programs. And, for a long time, it's like, oh gosh, I don't want to be associated with anything Papa John's. I'm going my own way. But in reality, the experiences that I've gained there from, basically a startup to multi-unit franchise with very limited data to tons of data, that experience and that understanding is very translatable to so many other different industries. And, when I've talked to people, they're like, well, healthcare, for example, or even, some of the other categories of, well, the customers aren't the same. In reality, when you step back and look at it, you got to know who your customer is.
Yeah.
You got to know what makes them tick. You've got to know what their channel is. And then you've got to have programs that are built around it. Whether you're selling a car, whether you're selling pizza, you still have to have that foundation. And then reach, retain, and regain, fits into all of that. How are you going to reach new customers? Doesn't matter what brand, what category you're in. That is everyone's objective. How do I get new customers in the door? And, what is your strategy? What are your programs? What are your channels that you do to have that? And then back to the retain. You want to retain all your consumers. So what are the messaging, the programs that you have once you start bringing these customers in? How are you, creating and gaining that data? And then the regain once again. But, that's really a foundation that applies for any brands. So, what am I doing now? So a lot of it is, consulting with other restaurants, consulting with other partners with the B2The7. Another one is I've formed a partnership with 2 other professionals, Three Ring Circus, which is a social media creation studio where we do a lot of stock animation. Why be ordinary when you can be extraordinary with a lot of this creative? We've got the photography the team does is phenomenal, and the background that they have. One of them has done a lot of the photography for Papa John's over the years, and he's been doing this on his side. He's worked with a lot of bourbon brands. The other professional, Rachel, that's a part of the partnership, she's done a lot of work for Humana and healthcare, but she's a phenomenal photographer. So taking a lot of our experiences and working together as a team to then helping other brands. So we've got a couple clients on that side where we're doing a lot of testing, developing a lot of the animations for them to use within their
Mhm.
social. And, that's another part of, taking our experiences and understanding, what the focus is for a brand, and then, working with them to create really one of three areas. What is your brand message? What is your promotional message? And then having a fun and entertaining section that really engages with the consumer as well. So really that's kind of the two areas that I'm looking at. And, I'm still looking for a full-time if it's there. And, how does this all fit together for myself? It's, I'll always do stuff with my clients and brands on the side, because that gives me the ability to continuously learn, to try different things that, I may not like with Papa John's, for example, there was a very lot of structure. So with the clients that I had with them, I was still able to go out and try different things and learn different things and really be able to expand my mindset and my features and my experiences with other brands as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's exciting. That's exciting. So, what do you think is the coolest technology development that you've seen in the last few months?
The coolest?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's really technology in general, but it is what brands have been forced to do over the last year, if you will,
Yep.
to meet consumers' expectations. And some of that is, a lot of brands may not have really been active online or may not have online ordering, but they were forced to get into a space that they were not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Some of them excelled, some of them didn't. But, it's the way technology has been used over the last year is, in my opinion, going to help shape the next 5 years. And when I say that, you look at the data that they're collecting. How are these brands now going to be able to be more focused, to be more personalized, to be more one-to-one now that they've got this data? And when I say data, it's, understanding who Damon is, what has he ordered, but then building and developing programs that are now going to be data-driven that they weren't doing a year ago. And, a year ago, this wasn't the CMO or the CEO saying, we're going to do this. This was a event that forced their brand to go into a space that they probably weren't ready for. And they were probably resisting and probably thinking, we never need to do that because, we're a sit-in restaurant and whatever it may be. Or, we might be a retail establishment that, our doors are always open.
Yeah.
Not always going to be that way. And this is an event that I think showed us that. But, where are we going to go from here? And how are we going to be more personalized? How are we going to look at the technology? And these are things that we've been talking about for, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
But not a lot of brands are doing it right. And when you think of, what's going to happen after this, hopefully, brands are going to start evolving and understanding the importance of data and why they should collect it and why they should have data-driven programs around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I'm glad to hear you say it, because I really think that there is, when we look at what was forced upon companies in the last year plus, you look at the way you had to relate to people, the way that you had to the remote work environment, the remote piece in that, the e-commerce, that just more transactions being done just because of the physical requirements of it. I don't think I think some of that is going to stick, because I know for me, look at me, old dude like me, I like ordering online now.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't before. I like it now because I order, it shows up on the doorstep, that's done. And whether it's ordering food, whether it's ordering supplies, whatever it is. And when you look at that is even, I think, more prevalent in younger generations. But I think what it did is it forced just about everyone to get kind of used to it. I mean, my mother was ordering groceries online.
Yes.
For almost a year. Do you think, I don't think that will probably change. They're used to being able to go in and make their little list out online and go pick it up.
Yeah. And and it's listening too. And, if brands don't listen to what the expectations of their consumers are, I can just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And, how are you listening, and how are you creating an experience that I want to keep coming back into?
Yeah. Yeah. And mixing it into the hybrid model of, yeah, I like to order online sometimes, but I want to stop in sometimes,
Yeah.
and see. So it's really going to be interesting how the brands can do it, because everything from restaurants to doctor's offices have had to change, and there's just so many opportunities for people to rethink the customer engagement and the customer, how you just deal with it and the journey, and how you can make it better. That it's mind-boggling, the options we have.
It really is. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. So, Bernie, it's been awesome getting to talk to you, and I want to be cognizant of our time here. And I know you've got another appointment, but man, I am so happy that we had this time to talk on Faces of Business. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach out? Is LinkedIn a good place to find you?
LinkedIn is probably the best place. Bernie Fussenegger. I think my dad might be out there. You can tell the difference.
Yeah, a little bit.
LinkedIn, absolutely. Definitely on Twitter. And website B2The7.com would be another way, but usually LinkedIn where I'm most active, and Twitter.
Good stuff. Well, thanks so much for being here today, Bernie. It's awesome talking to you again. I'm a junkie about this stuff, and we could talk about it for hours, but I will spare the listeners listening to me babble on. But your experience and the way that you think about this, is so cool to be able to get into a more in-depth conversation with you, because man, you start to unpeel the onion around you and get the layers open. You can really tell how you understand this at a deep level.
Well, yeah. And that's another part, over the last 3-4 years, it's how do you, and for myself, it's how do I make my personal brand and professional brand stand apart from what everybody else is offering, and how do you use my back experience to then help with that. And that's where I've really formulated and really settled on, the reach, retain, and regain. And how does that then apply to so much other, but it's understanding how to use that data, how to understand how to use the channels, how to understand segmentation, targeting, reporting. I mean, it all fits together. And without data, I mean, you're just basically, here's a high level batch and blast, experience.
Yeah.
But it's also the relationship building. So, social has a very big part in this, as far as, how do you build a community? How do you engage with that community? How do you listen, provide value? So that's a whole nother avenue that's, part of the levers that you pull, but you've got to build a relationship with your audiences and with your customers. And social is the perfect, it's a long tail game with social. It's not something that you're going to do today and tomorrow and expect results. It's how are you present? How are you active? How do you engage? And that's just as important as some of the other data marketing elements that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think we could talk all day on probably all of this.
Yeah, it's so true, man. It's so true. Well, Bernie, so great to have you there. Have you here. Thanks. Kelly was on. She said, hey, two awesome folks. She said hi.
Hello,
I said,
Kelly.
Hey, Kelly. Thanks for listening today. Just so blessed to have you here today, man. And
very much appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad we can have you here. I like your sports choices. I mean, the Kentucky's cool. St. Louis Cardinals, definitely. The Cowboys, I'm going to go, but hey, everyone's got to have their choices, and it's awesome that you have them.
Growing up in Louisville, we didn't have a whole lot of choices. It was, I think the Bengals at the time, and in our market, it was Green Bay that was on all the time, the Steelers and the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And when I was 6 years old, I chose the Cowboys.
There you go.
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse. That's good. That's good. Well, it's making those choices and sticking with them, man. That's good.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, wonderful. Thanks for being here today, Bernie. Thanks to everyone else for listening. We're going to be back again on Thursday this week. We got, I believe it's Lisa Caprelli on today on Thursday. She's going to be talking about, she has a great cause where she has a whole, online where she helps to inspire children to read. It's really cool. So we're going to have that going on. And so thanks again for being here, Bernie. We're going to sign off for now. Everyone else, just be safe, and we will see you again next time.